Hey, my name is Adam Nitti. I'm a Diodario artist and bass clinician, and I wanted to talk with y'all some about right and left hand technique, about making your approach much more efficient, utilizing economy of motion, and also being able to maintain tasks that we're faced with, such as keeping the strings quiet, the strings that we're not playing, and things that relate to that directly. I've found that over the years, the way that I've been able to clean up my playing and correct bad habits and things like that have come from actually studying precisely what my hands are doing at any given time on the instrument and evaluating based on that, figuring out what are the ways that I can take my technical ability to the next level. Most of us utilize some sort of an anchor in our plucking hand when we play, and the anchor is what keeps our hand stationary on the instrument, gives us sort of that security blanket of knowing exactly where we are at any given time when we're playing a phrase or an idea on the bass. The anchor point that is the pickup is good in that it gives you a place to base your hand position from, and it also gives you stability with the plucking hand. But when I started playing, because I was only playing on a 4-string bass at the time, I only had certain muting tasks I had to worry about that later became much greater when I started playing 5- and 6-string basses. And I want to demonstrate to you the problems that I ran into. When I switched from 4-string to 5-string bass, I started hearing things like this. Now, you can hear there's sympathetic vibration going on. So the notes that I actually played in that scale form, a lot of those notes are still ringing out. And unless I take my hand and keep those quiet some way, I'm going to have problems with those sympathetic vibrations when I go to play things on the instrument. It wasn't until I started utilizing a movable anchor or a trailing anchor that I really started to see improvement in my muting tasks on the instrument. So, whereas a stationary anchor would just hold you in one particular spot as you play through the strings, a trailing anchor or a movable anchor will actually have you moving your anchor point, in this case my thumb, in a sense chasing your plucking fingers and maintaining contact with the strings as you go up and down the range of the instrument. So the obvious advantage is that as I play through the strings now, having my thumb follow allows me to use the side of my thumb or the tip of my thumb or whatever is most comfortable for the player. I can use that portion to stay in light contact with the string so that I don't have any ringing. And that serves as a fantastic advantage when you're trying to deal with muting tasks on an electric bass. So, if you want to start working on this technique, what I recommend is using very slow and deliberate motions. And what I did when I started practicing this was I just took my thumb, and when I was playing the lowest pitch string on my bass, I would actually anchor on the pickup or the body of the instrument. So that means for me on this particular bass, if I was going to be playing this low B string, it would make sense for me to go ahead and keep an anchor either on the pickup, either one of the pickups or on the body of the bass. So I've got something sort of to grab onto and maintain hand position from. Now my anchor point is moved from the pickup to the low B string when I move from my low B string to the low E string. So watch my thumb. Here comes the transition. As I move to the E string, my thumb trails right behind. So now I'm on the string right behind the E, which is the B, and it's not going to make any noise because I'm maintaining contact with it on the tip of my thumb. Now when I go through and play the A string, my thumb is actually going to take a step to the E string now. And the same thing follows as I go through from string to string on the instrument. Every time I move to a different string, my thumb trails. So now when I'm up on the highest pitch string of my instrument, my thumb is still right behind. As you get better at this, there's no need to rely on the idea of these slow, deliberate motions from string to string. Feel free, as you experiment and start to feel comfortable with this, go ahead and let your thumb float. And you'll find that there are certain little technical advantages that are sort of hidden in this approach that you can make use of to make your job a lot easier. One of those little advantages is the idea that instead of leaving your thumb one string behind the string being plucked, if you keep your thumb 2 strings behind instead, see what I'm doing now is if I'm plucking on the A string, my thumb's actually anchoring on the low B string. So it's 2 strings away. 1, 2. Here's the A. The E is 1. B is 2. We mostly play as fingerstyle bass players with what are called rest strokes. And what that means is that when we go to pluck a string, our plucking finger actually comes to rest on the string right below it. So if I'm plucking on this D string, you see that my plucking fingers are actually coming into contact with the A string underneath it. Now, a rest stroke like this differs from what would be called a free stroke, in that with a free stroke, you would actually pluck away, almost moving in a vertical motion away from the strings. So most of the time we're not going to be playing with free strokes because it requires a different openness of hand, and it's a lot harder to utilize economy of motion and stay real close to the instrument and maintain muting tasks and accuracy and all that without doing rest strokes. So that's the difference in terms. But if you think about playing with rest strokes, what that does for you is it allows you to maintain more space between your anchor finger, in this case the thumb, and the plucking fingers, because when you come into contact with the string underneath, there's no need to mute that. So I can stay now, if I want to move up a major scale form, in this case I'll just play a 3-note per string E major scale. I anchor on the pickup, and I slowly make my transition to 2 strings away for each of the strings I play. So my thumb stays 2 strings behind. When I get to the top of the range and I stop playing, there's no noise there. But if I was to leave my thumb in one area, I've got noise. There's one other advantage that this buys you, and that is the idea that your plucking hand position can remain completely consistent whether you're playing on low strings or high strings. If you think about what your plucking hand looks like when you play the lowest pitched strings, it's a very curved, fingers are curved, it's a very closed hand position. If you completely relax your hands, you'll find that your fingers curve on their own automatically, unless you have some sort of injury that prevents that from happening. Your hands, when they relax, it wants to relax and allowing some curvature. If you look at my relaxed hand, fingers are naturally curving. It's sort of gravitating more towards a closed position. It actually takes a little bit of strength to hold your hands in a very open position. So if you think about open and closed positions and how they apply to fingerstyle playing, if I'm playing the lowest pitched strings, my hand is very, very closed. But if I have to leave my thumb in a stationary anchor point and play the highest pitched strings, look what has to happen to my hand position. It's much more open now. So the more relaxed feeling position is the more closed position. So if you utilize a trailing anchor or a movable anchor, if you look at me now when I play the high strings or the middle strings or the lowest pitched strings, that my hand position is always going to be the same, and that is definitely an advantage if you're looking for economy of motion and comfort when you're playing fingerstyle.